afternoon's May 2020 URA Board meeting. Good afternoon. My name is Diamante Walker. I'm the Deputy Executive Director of the Urban Redevelopment Authority. I'd like to thank you for your time for logging in to watch and participate in today's proceedings. A few housekeeping items before we get started, and I turn it over to Board Chair Sam Williamson. We are live streaming today's presentation on Facebook. The official record for public comment will be here in the Zoom, but we do have staff on standby watching the Facebook feed. Board members may also be watching the Facebook feed, but most of the public activity and engagement will be right here in the Zoom portal. So if you have any questions during the meeting, the board chair is pretty good about facilitating and fielding those questions. You can type those questions into the Q&A section, and you can also use the chat function for ongoing discussion. Without further ado, I will turn it over to you, Sam.
Thank you, Diamante. We will now officially call to order the May 14th, 2020 regular board meeting of the Urban Redevelopment Authority of Pittsburgh. And I'll call the roll. It looks like we might still be missing Representative Gainey. I can't quite tell if he's on the line yet, but Councilman Lavelle?
I'm working with him to get him on the line. He'll be here shortly.
Okay. Director Powell?
Here.
Director Hirsch?
Here.
So we have quorum, and we are waiting for Representative Gainey to get on the line. I'm going to begin with public comment. As Diamante said, you can ask questions and submit public comments in the chat function of the Zoom portion of this meeting. If you've got a question as we go through the meeting. The meeting is being live streamed for the first time on Facebook, which is, I think, a nice additional layer of transparency in this time of virtual meetings. And we did receive a pretty significant number of public comment submissions in advance of the meeting. So I am gonna do my best to summarize those. Some of them I will read and some of them I will summarize because they are 22 pages long in total. And so I'm not sure people want to listen to my theatrical renditions of all your public comments, but the comments are received. They've been distributed to the board members in advance of this meeting, and will certainly be taken into consideration as we discuss today's agenda. So that said, first public comment came from Craig Stevens, who is from the North Point Breeze neighborhood of Pittsburgh. And his email is pertaining to the cancellation of a May meeting of the Housing Opportunity Fund, saying we need the URA to be transparent and open about what resources are available to assist low-income renters and homeowners at the local, state, and federal level, including funds in the Housing Opportunity Fund. There's a public comment from Ann Wright, pertaining again to the Housing Opportunity Fund, who says that Ann Wright and the Visualization for Equity team at the Create Lab are interested in working with the Housing Opportunity Fund to visualize where money from various programs, including the COVID-19 response program, has been used. And it contains a request for information, specific information about Housing Opportunity Fund programs and fund usage that they hope can be converted into data that will help to illustrate the impact of the Housing Opportunity Fund programs on the community. The next area of public comment is from Cleophas Harris from the Hill District, who says, I want more information about the advisory board for the Hill Fund. Residents should have a voice about our community. I don't like that nonprofits dominate all the conversations and residents are in the cold. URA was having meetings in the Hill and things were transparent. Now it looks like we still have to depend on nonprofits to give us the truth, and ask for continued information about what's development opportunities in the Hill District, including on Center Avenue. We received a submission from Mark Masterson from the North Side regarding the URA, regarding the Housing Opportunity Fund Advisory Board, who says, as a member of the Housing Opportunity Fund Advisory Board, I would like to state that I am proud of the accomplishments we have made in the short time that the Housing Opportunity Fund has been up and running. During this pandemic, it's important that we create and deliberate in maintaining, that we be creative and deliberate in maintaining public meetings and soliciting public input on important policy initiatives related to housing and how public funds are used. And goes on to urge that meetings continue to be held and that that discussions are as transparent as possible. Points out, in addition, important to note that there have been studies that point to a need for as much as $40 to $50 million in rental stabilization funded needing in Allegheny County alone, the bulk of that being in the city of Pittsburgh. Those are estimates I think I've seen that anticipate what might be coming once the eviction moratorium is lifted later this year. We got a comment submitted by Rhonda Hall from the Hill District, Shenley Heights. It's a general comment regarding the Lower Hill development, who says, I would like to go on record offering full support of the Lower Hill development and what it means for the Hill District at large, and has some concerns about management and oversight of the fund, I think probably the Greater Hill Reinvestment Fund. We received a comment from Derek Tillman from Bridging the Gap Development, which says the Housing Opportunity Fund has helped a lot of people, and I believe we are doing great work, and it's great to hear all the success stories. However, we're not actively hearing about what is not going as well as anticipated. Therefore, we can't come up with solutions to improve. Good point. We received comment from Celeste Scott, housing organizer for Pittsburgh United, who says, as a member of the working class community in Pittsburgh, I am very disappointed in your decision to cancel the Housing Opportunity Fund Advisory Board's monthly public meeting in this time of great need for so many in our community. Another email about or message about the cancellation of the last monthly meeting of the Housing Opportunity Fund. Roy Blankenship wrote to sit with no neighborhood, but says, has the URA taken into account the coronavirus and lack of income applicants are experiencing to become tax compliant for their application approval? Good question. Laura Horowitz wrote to say, I was dismayed to read that you've chosen to cancel a public meeting of the Housing Opportunity Fund Board. It's never been more critical to have operation of this board open and public than it is now. Crystal Jennings wrote to say she's submitting testimony as the founder of CJ Consulting. And it is a message again about the cancellation of the May Housing Opportunity Fund Advisory Board meeting and urging for those meetings to continue. Althea Sims wrote, as the president of the Coalition of Organized Residents of East Liberty, CORE, to say that I think to call in essence for greater transparency in the use of Housing Opportunity Fund dollars. She says in the brief time the Housing Opportunity Fund has been in existence, there have been enough people helped, but that the Housing Opportunity Fund can be looked on as a definitive go-to organization. The Housing Opportunity Fund has and is and can remain when the organization has both the pulse of the public, who has the need, and the URA of the URA, who has the means to help them. And it urges that the Housing Opportunity Fund continue to hold regular meetings. Kenya, apologize if I mispronounce your name, but Kenya Ardain of the Hill District urges a no vote for the transfer of ownership of Block G1 on the Lower Hill to PAR and their development team. Celia LaRue, also of the Hill District, says she has been a proud member of the Hill community since she was born, It is disheartening that what is becoming of such a promising community. It appears that things are slowly being stripped from the residents at no benefit to them. Can't tell whether there's a specific ask on regarding the Lower Hill items before us today, but it's a message that pertains to the Lower Hill development. There's another message from Celeste Scott, again regarding the Housing Opportunity Fund, along with a request for information that we received about Housing Opportunity Fund programs. And it's a request for specific information that will be responded to in turn. The information requested is racial and demographic information on who's being served by the consumer programs, the plan for the $2 million CDBG infusion, and a number of other specific items of information that they are requesting. Beverly Walker from the Hill District and Genley Heights wrote to say, I fully support the Lower Hill development because of the impact it will have on the Middle and Upper Hill. We need transparency in the allocation of funds that the majority of residents will agree on. Residents must come first. Then we received a message from Dave Breinigan, who's the executive director of Lawrenceville United, who sent a long message regarding affordable housing and the Housing Opportunity Fund. It encourages the URA to proactively address the critical needs of the city of Pittsburgh, recognizing that the housing crisis already existed before the pandemic, continue the Housing Opportunity Fund Advisory Board's meetings, which are necessary now more than ever for the impact of the COVID-19 crisis, provide robust opportunities for public input and engagement on the recent infusion of $2 million of CDBG funds into the Housing Stabilization Program, and center equity and provide the public with regular reports and discussion on the racial and demographic information of people served by the consumer programs. We received a message from Randy Sargent of South Oakland regarding the Housing Opportunity Fund and urging for a focus on residents for housing stabilization, and again, urging transparency. Joanna Deming from Perry Hilltop on the north side submitted public comments regarding the Housing Opportunity Fund, again pointing to the need for potentially as much as $40 to $50 million in rent stabilization funds to prevent evictions, and asking that the public be afforded an opportunity to provide input on the recent infusion of $2 million in CDBG money into the Housing Stabilization Program. Wesley Speary of East Liberty wrote regarding the Lower Hill development. What are the guaranteed, mandatory, and enforceable benefit to the community in exchange for the transfer of property? What is the equity analysis that has been done regarding benefits and impacts of the transfer? Janelle Ganaway sent a message urging no vote on Block CB as being transferred to the Penguins. We received a message from Anna Clark of Beachview saying she is the ISAC service coordinator at Casa San Jose. And it is regarding applications that have been submitted to the Urban League for rental assistance through the Housing Stabilization Fund, and saying that the application process was lengthy and cumbersome, and I think urges the URA to figure out a way to make the process a little bit easier for residents to navigate. We received a message from Tanasha Davis regarding saying voting no to the transfer of ownership of Block G1 to PAR and affiliates at no cost at all. We received a message from Sharon Atkinson, which simply says no. Another one from Darnell Frazier opposing the Lower Hill development. Received a message from Wesley Speary of East Liberty regarding COVID-19 funding and assistance to small business, and asking post-COVID-19 restrictions, how much financial assistance has been provided to small business owners, small landlords, and tenants, and what are the demographics to those parties. A message from Tyler Junick Robinson, simply saying, I vote no. R.B. Bankston of the Hill District sent a message regarding the Greater Hill Reinvestment Fund guidelines. The document entitled Greater Hill Reinvestment Fund Policies and Procedures is attempting to illegally determine who sits on the advisory board, what their board term length will be, how board vacancies will be filled, and what for what spending purposes the LRTA money that will be placed in the reinvestment fund will spend. So it's a message regarding the Greater Hill Reinvestment Fund guidelines, and says that the URA board should give P&P to the advisory board for their consideration. Chris Hsu says he or she is a resident of the Hill District in the Upper Hill. Says, I am opposed to simply handing over development rights to the Penguins who have continually not fulfilled their obligations. Healing the legacy of trauma to the Lower Hill can only occur when the URA is willing to make good on community commitments. And then finally, Derek Tillman of Bridging the Gap Development sent a letter regarding the long letter with a list of concerns and recommendations regarding the Hill District redevelopment guidelines. Let's see if there's anything else. Oh, sorry. There's yes. Importantly, there's more. There's a message that was also sent to Mayor Peduto and the SEA board from the Hill District CDC regarding the Lower Hill redevelopment and today's agenda item relating to Block G1, which says, on behalf of the Hill District's Development Review Panel, the Hill CDC offers this letter notifying you of the status of Lower Hill redevelopment Block G1 proposal. It says, as we prepare to vote on Thursday, May 14th for preliminary site control to Buccini Pollen Group and Pittsburgh Arena Real Estate Redevelopment, that's BPG and PAR, as development team initiating the process of ownership transfer on the parcel identified as Block G1, please be advised that the proposal for this block has not yet successfully completed community review. The proposal for Block G1 is still actively under review, and the Development Review Panel, Hill District residents appointed by the master organizations, has provided multiple points of feedback for this development to align with the Greater Hill District master plan and the CSIP Community Collaboration and Implementation Plan before advancing them through the process to a public presentation. Further, please be advised that a number of commitments made to the Hill District community for Block E remain unfulfilled. The URA and the SEA voted to give site control to the same developer in October 2019. That, I believe, concludes all the public comment that we received in advance of the meeting. Let me just check the chat panel to see if there's anything additional here. Doesn't look like it. All right, I think that is the set of public comment. As noted earlier, you can submit questions as the meeting.
Sam, it looks like there are a couple more. Just hit the chat box.
I don't, maybe my chat box is, I don't see them. Can you read them?
Felicity Williams said there should be another public comment from the EMC, and Megan Hammond sent a question from FHP, but that's all it says.
Okay. Is that question there? I don't see the question.
Those were public comment that went in that wasn't read.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
So I think we're still missing those public comments, at least being read out loud.
Oh, well, everything that was sent that I received, I just read. So I don't know if staff can flag whether there were additional public comments.
There's one additional public comment from Lance Harrell representing the Executive Management Committee of the CSIP that was sent over in under separate cover to the board. He made a formal request that the board not vote on the Lower Hill items today. And all of the public comment can be made available on the URA's website in full for anybody who would like to read it.
Great. Thanks for that clarification. Okay, with roll call and public comment being done, did Representative Gainey, looks like he made it on the line, so now we have all 5 board members. Hey, how are you?
Good.
Everybody's here. The first order of business is to approve the minutes from the April 16th regular URA board meeting.
So move.
Move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And then we're going to move into the first agenda item, RFPs, RFQs, and bids. I think Jessica Smith Perry is going to discuss this first one.
Hi, yes. Good afternoon, everybody. This first one relates to what you're going to hear about in a little bit more detail in a couple minutes, which is the housing stabilization program that we are, running. We've been running for a year. We're running it now for COVID, and due to the additional 2020 HOF funding, and then a COVID program that's spinning out of this, which is going to be CDBG funded as well. We issued an RFP on April 23rd, did a couple of non-mandatory pre-proposal meetings, and the deadline is May 18th. Now, this is an RFP for social service providers to administer the program for us. Right now, we have the Urban League, Macedonia Faith, YWCA, and Pittsburgh Mercy that administer the program. They're doing a fabulous job. We're going to, most likely extend contracts with them, but we need to bring on additional providers as well. So once again, that's due on May 18th, and people can reach out to staff with any questions.
Great, thank you. I think I just found the additional public comment submission that I didn't read. So I'm just going to read this in its entirety because it's relatively short, and it's from Megan Confer-Hammond, and says, on behalf of the Fair Housing Partnership regarding the agenda item number 5A, the COVID-19 response update, remember that fair housing and affirmatively furthering fair housing obligations to federal monies are not exempt from the funds being provided in response to the COVID-19 virus. The pandemic's exacerbation of pre-existing inequities among the protected classes is well documented. As a result, the need and legal obligation to understand whether dollars spent are creating deepening segregation and widening inequities is more important than ever. Additionally, FHP is voicing its concern that the Housing Opportunity Fund canceled its May 2020 meeting. A critical factor during the pandemic is the URA and HOF's distribution of Housing Stabilization Fund as a critical means of combating the pandemic's disproportionate impact on communities of color. In fact, the HSP is not explicitly stated in today's agenda either. So consistent with a lot of the other comments that we've received today. And if there's one from the EMC, I'm not seeing that specifically, but.
That was an email we received earlier today, the EMC one.
Well, if we can find that, we will read it into the record as maybe staff can forward that to me and put it up on my email, and then I'll read it out to make sure that it is accurately reflected here. Okay, I do want to note a couple of things. There's a number of comments, obviously, regarding the Lower Hill agenda items, and we'll have a lengthy discussion on that as we get to that part of the agenda. There were also a significant number of comments around the Housing Opportunity Fund meetings, and I just want to affirm the URA's commitment to continuing public meetings for the Housing Opportunity Fund. In fact, there was one meeting canceled in part because there were no, I don't think there were any agenda items, or at least any development items to be discussed at that meeting. And because staff was really actively and busy trying to find additional sources of funds to add to the COVID-19 programs that we set up almost immediately as soon as this crisis began to help people prevent eviction and mortgage foreclosure. But those meetings will certainly continue. They'll continue to be more than what the law requires. The law requires quarterly meetings. We have, since the really inception of the Housing Opportunity Fund, been holding monthly meetings, not just quarterly meetings. We'll continue to do that. Certainly, it's our commitment, the URA's commitment, to making sure that there continues to be a robust public process around that the advisory board of the Housing Opportunity Fund can control to ensure the greatest input possible into those programs. And then just got the EMC memo, which I'll read. So this is a comment to the URA Board of Directors from the Lower Hill District Executive Management Committee. Which says, please accept this memo as formal notification that at a meeting of the EMC held on Monday, May 11th, the body reached consensus that the current community reinvestment plan for Block G1 is incomplete, and therefore is requesting that URA postpone authorizing the preliminary approval of a developer and a conceptual development plan for that site within the Lower Hill District. Keeping in mind the urgency of this matter, the EMC will continue to work with the developer to achieve better alignment with the community collaboration and implementation plan, and will submit to the URA Board in writing notification once that objective has been met. Please direct inquiries to Lance Harrell, CSIP Project Administrator for the Lower Hill EMC. Okay. Now I think we got all the public comments. Great, thank you. That's all actually incredibly helpful input. And probably a good segue to the first announcement, which Jessica Smith-Perry and Jennifer Wilhelm are going to lead us through, which is a discussion around the URA's response to the COVID-19 crisis.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Williamson, and I do want to thank you for your comments about the cancellation of the meeting as well. We do hold them monthly, and as you said, the legislation does state quarterly, and that's the first one in 2 years that was canceled because there were not action items specific to resolutions needed for the fund. I would like to say publicly, and I have said this to everyone who's reached out to me, we are in the process of receiving $2 million through the city's process. It went to council yesterday for the public discussion, and I had alerted everyone who reached out to me about that public process and that they could supply public comment for that process. Next week will be the final vote on that. Assuming the URA gets that $2 million, that will supplement the $1 million that will be in the 2020 HOF, and we're also about halfway through the 2019 HOF funding as well. And as you know, we moved $300,000 from the demonstration program. Additionally, the really good news is we also received a $400,000 grant from the Pittsburgh Foundation for the program, and we received a $40,000 grant from Wells Fargo. And we also have a few other applications pending that the staff have submitted recently. So we have about $4 million for the program at this point. Additionally, when we did receive concern about the cancellation of the meeting, we immediately scheduled a public URA update meeting. It is scheduled for May 21st at 9 o'clock a.m. in the morning. We are working with the city. It will be aired via the city's YouTube channel, and we will accept public comment, and you have to register that public comment with the city. So we are confirming the instructions for that, but we'll put that on the URA's website by tomorrow. So once again, mark your calendars. That's May 21st at 9 a.m. That is a public update meeting, because right now we are working with HOF money and also CDBG money and private philanthropy money and URA money. So we are going to be holding a URA public update meeting so we can cover all those sources at one time. And then on the slide in front of you, you can see, here's some statistics about how many people we've helped. Basically, the circle chart at the bottom, 304 households are currently being assisted through the program. Daniel, can you move to the next slide? And here are some statistics that we have gotten a lot of questions about. So to date, we've received about 750 calls. They are coming through 211. So that is United Way's helpline number. So anyone who needs to access the program, they need to call 211. Approximately half of the 750 calls we've received have been outside the city. And as you know, our funding is limited specific to the city of Pittsburgh. 81% of those have been for rental assistance. The remaining 19% have been for mortgage assistance. And I should state that the CDBG funding that we will be getting from the city, $1 million of that is for rental assistance and $1 million of that is for mortgage assistance. And the RFP that I talked about at the beginning of the meeting, we will be bringing on providers to do both the rental and the mortgage assistance for us. A third of the callers, when they called, stated that they were waiting for their unemployment, and this is why they had the need right now. 78% of the households are underneath 30% area median income, and 75% have stated that their need is specifically related to COVID-19. So we are working with the service providers to update those questions that they asked, because we actually suspect that the number is even higher than that. It's just more of an indirect relationship. And almost everybody, all the applicants are able to do their intake remotely, but if they are not, the YWCA is completing in-person intakes still at this point. Are there any, here's some more statistics. 80% of the households helped were minority households, and 56% were female head of households. And out of the 700 number you saw, 35 have been for mortgage assistance. Additionally, we do want to point out that the Urban League and URA staff has met via Zoom with immigrant and refugee organizations to make sure that we are helping that population, and we have received 50 applications from those organizations to date.
Can we go back one slide, please?
Yeah.
Sorry. What's my Zoom is eating the last line. What does the last line say?
16% are able to complete in-person intakes with the YWCA. Basically, the folks that cannot do it remotely, the YWCA is meeting with people in person.
Okay. And so of those 750 calls, we've now got, in the approximately 375 that were in the city, we've got 100 on a waiting list still?
Yes, and they're moving as fast as they can through the list, but yes, we do have some people on a list.
Was the allocation was the allocation of the CDBG funds that you described, with half going to provide mortgage assistance and half to renters, was that determined by the city before they sent us the money?
Yes.
Because that is a little bit disproportionate to what the need seems to be.
But also, I can say that, when the RFP that I talked about at the very beginning of the meeting, should help us with the waiting list, because if we bring on more providers, we'll have more bodies, processing this.
Okay. Great.
So you can see here, just finishing out the slide, that there roughly is about 100 people on the waiting list right now, but many of the initial calls were ineligible primarily because they were outside of the city. Are there any questions?
I was just going to say quickly, I think that I appreciate you doing the deeper dive of kind of the demographics of who's receiving funds. But I will say, I know a lot of city and state entities are looking for more disaggregated data. to ensure that as we start to, move forward with recovery plans, we're able to really pinpoint the communities that are of need. So going forward, I don't know if you have or collect that information internally and just, for public purposes, haven't displayed it as thoroughly, but I think that there could be a conversation going forward about how do we disaggregate data so that, in our recovery phases, we're able to really, really get to those in need.
Yes, we do keep track of it internally. We can start providing maps in the future. There's, the providers help immediately because the need is to get the money to folks immediately. They then reimburse us, and that's when we get the listing of addresses. So we're just slightly behind on the addresses, but we will start providing maps. And staff has been reaching out to the providers on a almost daily basis, and we are covering the whole city. We have confirmed that all 9 council districts we've received a lot of calls from all 9 council districts. So we are getting word out, and I do want to thank everyone that's watching this, that have helped us to get the word out to their communities. We greatly appreciate it.
Also, just another quick thing. I know that there have been some kind of concerns from the welcoming community in particular on how we can make this application and this process easier for those who don't speak English as their first language or have that ability. So going forward, if there are ways that we can either use city resources from our translation services or translators, I'd love to have that conversation so that all of us, all Pittsburghers, are able to access these funds, even if status or language is a barrier for them immediately.
Absolutely. And we do work with global wordsmiths with any translation services needed. So I will check in with them and check in with the Urban League, but absolutely we'll do whatever we can.
Thanks, Jessica.
So if somebody, there's actually a good question in the chat thing right now, but if somebody calls 211, what should they specifically be saying or asking in order to make sure that they get to this point and actually can get to the help from us? And and I guess in addition to that, how long should they expect the turnaround to be between when they call and when they can start actually getting help, assuming they're eligible?
Right. So we recognize that people, are in a crisis situation and time is of the essence. So what they need to do when they call 211, if they've, heard about the program and they know that, they meet the program guidelines, then they need to tell 211 they're calling to inquire about the housing stabilization program. However, if they don't know those words, if they just know they need help and they start telling the 211 operator, that they need help, they can't pay their rent, they lost hours at work or have been laid off completely, 211 should refer them directly to this program. The operators have all been trained in the program. They should be referred. Now, because the program administrators are running with a bit of a waiting list, 211 keeps track of which one is, got the smallest list, and they may refer them directly there. If they all have a list of more than 10 or 20 people, they are sending them to someone on my staff, Brianna Benjamin at the URA. She is keeping the list and then fielding it out to the providers, as there then is more opening. There's constant daily communication between Brianna, 211, and all 4 providers.
And what's the turnaround
Once we
time,
get the
generally?
new, everyone should receive a call back within a week. Definitely should get that full intake within a week. If they don't, like if anyone that's listening has heard that somebody is not, please let me know. We will figure out where the holes or the gaps are in the process. But
Sam,
some of
did
the
you mention
providers have had to.
Sorry, I was just going to ask
go
if you
ahead.
mentioned the comment about the application being 47 pages.
I didn't see that yet. Is that true?
I didn't see that comment either. Not
Yeah.
that I'm
Well,
aware
I've actually
of,
heard that also from the community, that it's just really, there's a lot of content to get through. It feels a little prohibitive. So I don't know if you could speak to that a little bit.
I can check with my staff and give you a better answer on that. This is what I've been told, is that oftentimes, because they're short on staff themselves, they are using volunteers to provide intake. So within a week of getting passed through 211, they should receive a phone call from an intake person that will ask them a lot of questions. Now, 47 pages doesn't sound correct to me, and I will check on that. It is not meant to be prohibitive at all.
Okay, I know I had talked to someone at Casa San Jose about how much staff it was costing, how much staff was needed in order to process a limited number of applications. That seemed concerning. So it'd be great if you could get more info on that.
Great.
Yes, I will, and I will let you know.
Okay. Yeah, that would be really helpful. We're trying to help people.
Also,
We shouldn't drown them in paperwork in order to help them.
One other thing, Jessica, just for my clarity, I know that you guys have been really trying to be really flexible and trying to accommodate the influx of applicants that you're seeing, but also, I guess, the different types of applications you're receiving. So before, pre-COVID, you'd have to kind of state your financial history and what have you. Could you talk a little bit about how you've shifted the application and what's needed so that it reflects some of the realities of folks applying for these funds?
Yes, so we are just really taking an email. As far as I understand it, our providers are taking an email from someone's employer if their hours got reduced or they were laid off completely due to COVID closures. We're not, it's hard to document something like that, via IRS or anything like that. So we're taking emails or even phone calls from employers just confirming that. We are much more relaxed. I will say, though, however, with the CDBG funding coming, it is federal funding, and the city right now is in the process of delving into the CARES Act and how we are to document income. So there may be some changes to the program once we fully understand the federal requirements and how they treat unemployment and things like that, because the Federal CARES Act is stating that there cannot be double dipping of federal resources. So we do need to get our head wrapped around that. But for right now, with the HOF funding and the non-federal funding we have, we are asking more relaxed questions about income.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that update. Can we move into the update on the small business recovery loan fund, small business recovery loan fund guidelines? I think that's Jennifer Wilhelm. Jennifer, you on?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we got you.
Sorry. Good afternoon. Our COVID Emergency Loan Fund program continues to see high demand. As you can see from the chart that we've already deployed 147 loans, more than $2.2 million. When we launched this program 2 months ago, the URA staff pulled together very quickly to get this program out into the marketplace, and we have continued to process loans at quite a clip to make sure that these small businesses are getting the assistance that they need. I want to give a special thank you to the other entities that have contributed to the fund, including Dollar Bank, the Hillman Family Foundations, Citizens Bank, and the Pittsburgh Urban Initiative. Do you have any questions about the data or anything in particular about the business fund that I can answer?
How has this demand changed over the last month or so since the SBA programs have been somewhat revamped at a federal level?
Yes, the demand has slowed down since the beginning 2 months ago. It has slowed somewhat. We're still continuing to get 5 to 10 applications a day, and so we're continuing to process those. We are expecting, now that the state is starting to reopen, that we will see another surge of potential applications, and that will get into my next item, which is the Recovery Loan Fund that we are hoping to launch coming up. But this one it's been pretty steady. I do think that people have potentially redirected to the PPP or other resources that are available, though we know that some of the most vulnerable business owners are likely not getting those. They're not able to have the resources to apply to those or to receive those funds. And so we are continuing to really target minority and women-owned businesses. We have in this ELF so far have about 63% of the funds have been dispersed to minority or women-owned businesses across the city.
Just a quick question. I think Zoom is eating my screen as well. It says emergency loan fund status, and then I can't see anything else past there. Would someone be able to read the bottom of the page?
Yeah. So that's talking about the $5 million CDBG potential allocation from City Council through the CARES Act. So we are hoping to get another $5 million to continue this small ELF fund, and then also to help with the launch of the larger fund that we would like to launch.
And what's the 70%? I just can't see it, I'm sorry. I just see the number and nothing else.
Yeah, 70% of our current funds have been deployed. So out of the money that we have currently in the bank available for these emergency loans, we have actually given out already 70%, and we are processing another 97 applications. So if you count those, we are actually oversubscribed. We need another $600,000 to get through those 97 applications, and we're hoping that this city money will help us fill that gap as we continue to process.
And also, just out of curiosity, are you seeing people applying for the total amount? Is there a need for, opening up the limit, or people, applying for varied amounts with within the cap?
About 85–90% are applying for the total amount, which is $15,000. We have some that are applying for less. And so we look at what they are asking for, of course, and don't raise it necessarily. But so the next slide that I have is going to be talking about a recovery fund, which will be a higher dollar amount. So we are hoping to launch a fund that will allow up to $75,000. And a lot of that funding we are hoping will come from that CARES Act money, that $5 million money.
Great.
So I think the blue thing on the blue graph on the bottom appears to simply be a restatement of the green bar graph up above that shows that of the $5.3 million in applications and total demand, 2.1 has been dispersed and 1.47 is in process. Is that right?
Correct.
Am I reading that right?
Yeah. And then the gap there, you'll see there's a gap. It doesn't necessarily add up, and that's because people apply, but then we find out they're outside the city, so they're not eligible. That's been the largest reason for that gap, is businesses outside the city are not eligible for the funding, or they just decide they've got other funding or what have you. So there is that little bit of gap there that accounts for those. So we are continuing though to be in pretty high demand. And, like I mentioned, we really, really believe that these dollars are critical for the smallest of small businesses here in the city that may not have the resources to go after the larger federal programs.
Yeah. We also, last month when we discussed this, I think some of us might have said that we need some Pittsburgh institutions to actually contribute to these efforts also. And so it's good to see Dollar Bank and the Hillman Foundation on here. So just want to echo your thanks to them for contributing to these efforts.
Yes. We couldn't do this without the support of others. I know we're continuing to talk to other parties, so those dollars may go up.
Yeah. Okay. You want to move on to the recovery efforts?
Yes, absolutely. Sorry, I am home. I have a child.
It's part of the world right now.
Sorry about that. So
Don't
the
worry about it.
recovery program loan guidelines. You all should have received a copy of this. And this is the new program that we want to bring to the forefront for those businesses that are looking to reopen as the state lessens the requirements. And to Director Powell's point, this will provide additional dollars to help cover those additional costs. So for this program, we're going to be offering up to $75,000. And this will be a program that is 7-year loan. It'll be 0% and no payments for the first year. And then for year 2 through 7, it'll be a 2% interest rate for businesses. And the difference between this one and the one that we're currently running is that the current program, the Emergency Loan Fund, is really meant to focus on fixed costs, just keeping that business in their location, paying the rent, the payroll, the utilities, the insurance, and just dealing with that immediate crisis. The recovery dollars in the larger amount is really meant to get these businesses up and rolling again. So maybe they laid people off that they want to rehire, they need to get inventory again. If it's a restaurant, you know, they probably don't have any of that, the food that was good anymore at this point. So just getting everyone up and rolling, we know that's going to cost more money, and that's why we have created this second tier program. And so both programs will continue to run, and they will both fall now under these guidelines that we are putting forth to you for your consideration. If you go to the next slide, you can see the two programs laid out here. So the guidelines then, again, will encompass both of these programs, and the business can apply to whichever one they believe fits their situation more accurately, or they can also be, you know, we can also speak with them and just funnel them to the correct program. Are there any questions about this?
Any questions from the board? No? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're
Okay.
very excited about it. You'll be seeing it again next month for a vote.
Great. Okay. Next, we go back to Jessica to talk about, we're celebrating the 100th closing for down payment closing cost assistance loans. That's kind of amazing.
Yes, but before I do that, I want to answer Jody's question more about the link for the application. I just been emailing back and forth with staff. The application is actually 5 pages. However, for the groups that are working with non-English speakers, the Urban League gave them an additional application that is their traditional application that is translated, and it is longer. So we are going to work with the Urban League and Global Wordsmiths to fix that issue. But
Great.
for English speakers, the application is 5 pages long.
Okay. Yeah, whatever can be done to make it as not prohibitive as possible would be great.
Yep. Yeah, so some good news to announce is even during the COVID crisis, new homes have been closing. People have been buying their first homes, and we're super excited to say that we hit 100 down payment and closing cost loans. So the HOF rolled out their program in April of last year, so it took about a year. We closed the 100 one on May 1st. So I just want to thank all the staff, Jeremy Carter, Brianna, Benjamin, and the other staff that work on this program for all their hard work, and just everybody who's watching, you know, keep utilizing the program and getting the word out, because we would love to double that next year.
It's amazing. Great job. Any sense of like how many of these folks moved into Pittsburgh from outside of the city? They're obviously all first-time home buyers, right?
They are all first-time home buyers in the city. If somebody's moving in from outside, we counted them as a first-time home buyer.
Yeah.
I don't have that data in front of me, but I can try to get that. You can see on the slide the neighborhoods where folks are moving into. We listed the neighborhoods that have received the most purchasers.
That's great. Thanks. You want to just keep going because you got the next announcement too. Yeah,
this is an exciting one as well. So you've heard me talk in the past about the Roofathon. We were ready to hold the Roofathon in April prior to COVID, and it got temporarily delayed. But we are going to hold the Roofathon in June. And what the Roofathon is 25 homeowners are going to get brand new roofs put on their homes. It's funded by a $150,000 neighborhood lift grant from Wells Fargo to the Pittsburgh Housing Development Corporation. And also we're adding some HOF homeowner assistance program funding. The households were identified because they had applied to our homeowner assistance program, and they all referenced that roof was their greatest need. And we were running a waiting list on that program as well. So we went through those applications, pulled out the ones that had the greatest roofing needs, and enrolled them in the program. You can also see on the slide, we are using 4 contractors. 2 of those contractors are MWBE contractors, but you can see the 4 contractors, they have split out the 25 homes. They've already given us cost estimates. We have the documents ready for the homeowners. They have applied for their permits, and in June, you will see the 25 roofs be put on. And next year, this is a pilot program, for us to kind of, get out the kinks of the Roofathon. Next year, we plan to do a larger one and fundraise for more corporate sponsors.
Great. Okay, thank you. That's also really good news. And then we're gonna talk about you. So is Tom on the line going to talk about Jessica's appointment to the board of the National Association of Local Housing Finance Agencies?
Yes, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, this is an announcement and just a congratulations to Jessica Smith-Perry for being appointed to the board of directors of NALFA, which is the National Association of Local Housing Finance Agencies. So URA has been a member of, really one of the founding members of NALFA from back in the late 80s. And this is an advocacy organization that works at the national level to advance affordable housing issues in terms of legislative and regulatory assistance to improve affordable housing and to enhance affordable housing throughout the nation. So it's and they also provide technical assistance and educational opportunities to its members. So I'm really happy and pleased for Jessica to be appointed to the board. I think she'll be a great addition for the leadership of the organization, given her expertise, her commitment, and her passion for affordable housing. It's a well-deserved honor for Jessica, and on behalf of the URA, we congratulate her.
Congratulations, Jessica. That's great.
Thanks.
Now we're going to reverse it and talk about Tom.
Yeah. The reason why I'm actually taking the NALFA appointment is because Tom is retiring and was on NALFA. And, I would like to just take this moment to say that, during COVID, our entire staff has been amazing. And I really wish those of you in the audience could see what I see on a daily basis about how hard everybody's working to roll out these COVID programs and to roll out all the URA's programs. And one of the people that have done this, not just during COVID, but for the entire time he's been here, is Tom Cummings. I hope I can get through this one actually without crying, because he has been a mentor and a colleague and a friend who has really cared with his heart and soul for Pittsburgh's residents and has spent 30 years at the URA helping to create housing opportunities, especially affordable housing opportunities for Pittsburgh's residents. You can see on the slide, he's been here 30 years. In 2004, he became the housing director. And even in the last 20 years, I can say he has worked dedicatedly to the city to build the city's downtown urban core with housing, and then in the last decade, really to work in the neighborhoods like East Liberty and Garfield. He has helped assisted over 500 affordable housing units in East Liberty. In the recent 6 or 7 years, worked on the 333 unit Larmer Choice neighborhood. He has worked with all the CDCs like Bloomfield Garfield Corporation with for sale home ownership in the early 2000s when that was really important. It's still very important, and has really just spent late hours and long days really helping Pittsburgh's residents. And I can say that I am so going to miss Tom and everything he's done for the URA, and all my colleagues I know feel the same. So thank you, Tom Cummings, for 30 years of dedication to city's residents.
Well, thank you,
Just
Jessica.
echo that, Tom. I mean, it feels a little bit anticlimactic to be doing this remotely on Facebook and Zoom. If we were in the room together, we could give you a round of applause, and I guess if we were in the room together, we still wouldn't be allowed to shake your hand, but but you deserve it. Thank you so much for all your service, not just to the URA, but to the entire city of Pittsburgh for the last 3 decades. And this is a well-deserved honor and well-deserved retirement.
Congratulations, Tom. You've been a pillar. Whenever I needed something or one short something, you was always there to help me understand what was going on. All I can do is say congratulations, man. Job well done. Well done.
I also want to chime in and just say thank you, Tom, for your years of service. Similar to Ed, you were always there to patiently educate me as it related to housing deals and how these things sort of come together, and you increase my knowledge tenfold. So I just want to thank you for your years of service to the city, to the URA, and also for your patience and working with me.
We're going to miss you. You got a speech?
I don't really have a speech, but I do want to thank thank you, Jessica, for the kind comments, and for others. Just a couple of things. I've really been appreciative of all the opportunities I've been given at the URA from leadership, to grow in my position and my career. And most of all, I think I've been proud of the impact that the URA's had in the city neighborhoods and on its residents. And I want to thank my colleagues, past and present, for everything, for their friendship, for their guidance and support. I continue to be amazed by their dedication and commitment to public service, commitment to the city, their professionalism, and their creativity. And I wish everybody the best. Greg, I'm sorry we didn't get to work together longer, but I do wish you the best, and the rest of the leadership and the staff and board of the URA, as you guys continue to move forward in the next iteration of the URA, especially in these challenging times. So with that, I just want to thank you, for your support that you've given me for so many years. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, so moving the agenda along, we're going to have a briefing and presentation of the developer's obligation for public infrastructure and other improvements for the Lower Hill LRTA. And Tanisha Powell, I think. There we go.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I would like to motion that we actually table this presentation.
Okay. This is the Lower Hill. This is not the actual takedown. This is the just the discussion of the redevelopment guidelines for Lower Hill.
Yes.
Okay. You want to table this for further discussion in a couple of weeks, or in a month, or
at our next board meeting?
Okay. Any further? There's a motion to table. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so there's a motion and second on the table. I think this warrants discussion of this. So we're going to come to this again when we get to to agenda item 8A and B. Clearly got a lot of public input around both the takedown that is on the agenda today and on the Lower Hill LERTA guidelines. You know, this part of this, I think, seems to be the less, I don't know, consequential, at least in terms of the possible ramifications of holding or delaying. You know, but there certainly is a feeling that that these guidelines warrant greater review and input. And we want to take the time to make sure that we get this right, while also making sure that we are responsibly advancing the development itself in a way that, you know, it creates jobs, creates development dollars for the rest of the Hill District community, but also, you know, responsibly meets the demand that we have to the public, the responsibility that we have to the public to actually navigate transparently and responsibly the, you know, what is essentially what is a public development process. So I think they're two separate conversations, but how do other board members feel about this? I can call the motion, but warrants probably some additional discussion.
This is Lindsay. Absolutely. I mean, I think at this point, you know, this is such a monumental project, and we want to make sure that we get every single piece of it right and ensure that we're able to uphold both the community's vision as well as our obligation to doing this as best as we can. So I appreciate the motion to table until we can dig deeper and make sure that it's correct.
Okay. I'm not sure that this actually now that I think about it, this is a non-voting presentation of guidelines. So we can probably simply decide to skip this and without even a motion, just move on to the next part of the agenda, because it's not a voting item. Are you?
Yes, that's correct. You can skip this section. It's an announcement, not a
Right.
vote.
Yeah. Okay. Councilman, are you comfortable withdrawing your motion?
Yes, motion withdrawn.
All right. Let's just skip this and skip the next agenda item, the briefing and presentation of the Greater Hill Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund guidelines.
Yes.
Okay. And now we're gonna move into the actual voting agenda, starting with residential lending and investments.
Hi, yes. You see the four items today. I will be taking the first two, the financial feasibility services, and Kyle Kirkbride, and Tom Cummings will be taking the last two, the Upper Hill and Larmer.
Okay.
And before I delve into financial feasibility services, one benefit of doing this remotely is I can have staff email me the answers to questions while we're talking. Chairman Williamson, your question about how many people moved in from outside the city for our down payment program is 20%. So 20 out of the 100 households moved in from outside the city.
Thanks.
So with financial feasibility services, we issued an RFP on April 15th, and the deadline was May 6th. The RFP was to attract financial firms or consultants who do financial feasibility. So they basically look at large development deals and look at the pro formas and look at the financial statements of the developers, and they look at market comparables and help us to review the proposals, especially for developments where the URA might be RFPing large tracts of land. So that's what the RFP was for, and we received 12 responses, and they were due on May 6th. So we're still going through the responses, the staff is, but we wanted to create a slate. So we're bringing all 12 firms to the board today for the creation of the slate. And then once the slate is created, we will work with 2 or 3 of the firms, at least initially, and then maybe pull more in later on a contract basis to help us review the larger development deals in the city. And you can see that the list of firms in front of you, there were a few Pittsburgh-based firms, JLL Capital Markets, Palo Alto Partners, and Mullen and Lonigan Associates. But then there were also a lot of nationwide firms.
So any questions from the board on this? Jessica, can you restate just briefly? My audio totally cut out for a couple minutes on my computer. Just restate your summary of the purpose of this one more time.
Yes, the purpose is to have a slate of consultants that we can use to do financial feasibility reviews for us. Basically, you know, and this is to the city's credit, but I would say over the last few years, we're getting more and more larger mixed use developments proposed in the city than we ever did before. We have developers that are looking at market and affordable and a mix of that with maybe a parking garage and ground floor commercial or office space. And, you know, even though we have, I think, a really solid staff here at the URA to review and to underwrite, when we're looking at deals, especially initially when we RFP development of URA's land, we really just want a third party to help us evaluate it and also to potentially, you know, get more comparables in the neighborhood, do some market studies, things like that, but to do an overall review. So our plan is for a lot of our developments, we will use one of the people on the slate to do that review initially, and that's something that we could then use as we vet the project and talk to the developer.
So I mean, this is actually something I want to thank you and the leadership for advancing this. I'm kind of excited about this and pretty proud of it. It seems on its surface like a mundane and maybe overly technical agenda item, but think about what the ramifications of this might be that we actually have for maybe the first time in the URA's history, objective outside analysis on the feasibility of projects, which will not only safeguard public funds, but also give us the ability to have a more detailed assessment of whether public funds are truly needed for development to move forward, and how much of a gap a developer might actually have. So we might look at a development, for example, asking for, you know, $1 million in affordable housing funds in order to be able to fill a gap to be able to complete their capital stack. And maybe we look at it and discover that they're banking on a 10 or 15% return on investment. And this kind of objective outside analysis will position us to be able to say to developers, this is a public project with public dollars. You know, before we put significant public dollars in, let's actually analyze how much profit is appropriate for a developer to be taking out of a project that has significant public subsidy in it. So that's, I think, a critical component of good governance and frankly of like safeguarding our dollars and making sure that our dollars go as far as they possibly can.
Yes, and I want to thank Greg and Diamante for their leadership on this item as well.
Can I raise a question from the comments? There was a question on how many MWBE firms had applied or responded, to the RFP.
Yeah, that's a good question. We're still delving through that, but most of these firms are not MWBEs.
I mean, at this point, I don't know if there's any way to encourage more MWBE responses, but I think that that's a critical point to raise, at least if there are folks who are responding with that lens.
Yes, and we will require, when we actually get to the contracting phase, we will require sufficient MWBE inclusion, whether that's bringing on additional MWBE firms to partner on some of this. We can do this on a rolling basis and continue to do that outreach to identify MWBE firms. So if there are any that are known in the market right now, please send them to us. There's no problem with adding them to the list. We just did not get MWBE respondents.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Great. Any further questions or discussion? No. If there are none, then I would request a motion to approve.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Great. Thank you.
Yes, this is Northside Properties. You have seen Northside Properties numerous times in the past. This is the third phase. Northside Properties, of course, is a 324 unit scattered site affordable development in the North Side. The URA has been involved with this property numerous times over the years to continue to preserve the much needed affordability in the North Side. This is phase 3. It is 70 units. I brought this to the board in January for 2 loans, for a $700,000 HOF rental gap loan and a $700,000 RIDUP loan. It is a 4% low-income housing tax credit preservation deal. The problem was, as they were getting closer to closing, the appraisal that the bank got to be able to give the first mortgage came in a lot lower than they had thought that it would. Therefore, the bank funding came in lower, came in at $8 million, and they expected it to come in at over $9 million. So they have asked us for $1,050,000 PDF loan. This is a little different than the loans you saw in January. It will not be based on cash flow. It will actually be a real amortizing payable loan every month. It'll have a 40-year AM, 16-year term, 4.15% interest rate. But the URA, when they applied for this, we felt like this was a good, solid loan to make, and it will be the final piece to help this deal close. I should note we are also serving as the multifamily bond issuer for this deal. So you'll see this deal actually one more time before closing with final bond issuance authorization.
Okay. And the unit breakdown is there on the screen. Any questions?
No questions, just a comment. I want to thank both Mystic for moving this forward. I want to thank Tom as he goes out for all his work on this over the years, actually, as well as Jessica's. And I want to thank you for moving this forward. I've yet to meet a resident that isn't extremely happy and satisfied with the renovations that have been done with this scatter site development. So this is exciting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we're going to move to Tom Cummings' final URA board briefing in the Upper Hill.
Yes, so please go easy on me, especially after all those nice things you said. So I'm here for a project that's actually underway now. It's in the Upper Hill District, being done by our Pittsburgh Housing Development Corporation, which is the URA's nonprofit housing development affiliate. The PHDC is working with the Shenley Heights Collaborative, which is the community-based organization, working in the Upper Hill. And there's a larger strategy here to renovate at least 30 homes for home ownership. This project this phase is the first phase that's being developed. It actually closed back in late 2018, and it's currently underway. It's for 5 units. The 5 homes there's 2 homes on Anaheim Street, 2 on Bryn Mawr Avenue, and then 740 Adelaide Street. When this project first started, the PHDC was experimenting with a construction management approach rather than hiring individual general contractors for the entire project or or the houses. And the idea of the construction management approach, we were, one of the goals of the program was to, to try to reach smaller contractors and subcontractors directly, so that, for utilization on the project. So, with those best intentions, we proceeded with this approach. Unfortunately, it really didn't work out, to as well as we would have expected it to. And there were a number of problems with, with the project. We had, I think the initial scope was not really totally accounted for, and not accounted for in the original project financing. Some of the subcontractors had capacity issues and needed to be replaced. So every time you do that, you have to spend more money to kind of, repair things that might have been done improperly, et cetera. And also there's other work items that weren't accounted for. So we're now, so in late 2019, the PHDC took over the PHDC staff took over the construction management responsibilities for the project. There were 2 homes that were under sales agreements, so we needed to complete those so that they could be sold, which we're pleased to say they were. And then we've continued to use those same subcontractors to complete the remaining 3 units. So what I'm requesting today is additional construction financing to complete the project, to complete the other 3 homes and sell them. So the financing being requested is amendments to the existing loan and grant agreements. So we're asking for an additional $50,000 in a construction loan, and then an additional $212,500 increase to the grant that was originally provided. And then lastly, the URA provides second mortgages to the buyers of these units. And what we typically do is estimate the amount of second mortgages that will be provided, which is really just an estimate. So we're asking, because we've been able to reach a deeper level of affordability, reaching more very low income buyers, we're requesting a $35,000 increase to the allotment of second mortgages for the project. So we think, we think that the completed units are great, and we think that the ones to be done will be, really high quality and provide great home ownership opportunities in the Hill District. I'm sorry asking for more money at this point in time, but overall, I think we're going to get, a good project. And we had a lot of lessons learned from this experience, and things that we've addressed at the PHDC level moving forward, leading to increased staff capacity at the PHDC. I know Rich Snipe and Dave Major from the PHDC have done a great job in kind of bringing this project home and bringing it to fruition. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
No questions. Just again, want to thank you for your work on this, Tom. This has been a project that has been evolving over the last maybe 3 years or so. So I want to thank you for your dedication, as well as Dave Major and Richard Snipe. I think what's particularly interesting and exciting about this is we've seen a lot of local residents who have been longtime renters actually coming to actually purchase these properties, so they're able to actually stay in the community that they've grown up in or that they want to continue to live in. So I think that's actually fairly exciting. So thank you again for this.
Thank you.
What will the sale prices be?
With the exception of the Adelaide Street unit is, that's a larger unit, and that's proposed to be sold at $225,000, but all of the other ones are right around $150,000. That's the sales price, but there's deferred second mortgages available of $50,000 from the URA to make those all affordable to households below 80% area median income. And in fact, the first 2 buyers, I believe, also received financing from the Housing Authority from their programs.
So we're okay, makes sense. So to bring them down to a level of affordability,
right? In terms of what
subsidizing almost 50% of the cost,
right? In terms of what a buyer would need to finance privately through a bank.
Yeah, okay. Great. Any other questions or comments?
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Last one, Tom.
Okay, last one, the Swan Song. So this is
It's a good one.
Right. Ed knows this one. So this is, we're requesting financing for, to provide to Mary Rose and Martha Rose that are, these are long-term residents of Larimer. These are twin sisters in their 80s. They were actually born when they were born, they lived in 133 Meadow Street. So they've lived their entire lives in the Larimer neighborhood. They're neighborhood icons. As homeowners in the Larimer neighborhood, they were eligible to receive financing through our Choice Neighborhood Homeowner Assistance Program, which was the facade program that the URA was operating in Larimer as part of the Choice effort. We had a very unfortunate situation with the Rose sisters. They received the grant for the facade program. They entered into a contract with a contractor, and just due to some unexpected circumstances, based on the work on their house actually, their house actually caught on fire to the point where it was not able to be saved. So the sisters had to move out of their house, and they've actually been living with relatives ever since. But since the time of the fire, the sisters have been deeply committed to coming back to that site. That's where they were born. That's their home, and we would. So that's been their intent from day one after the fire. They've had, prior to our involvement, they were working with a modular home builder, Riverview Builders. So they've identified a housing type that they would like to put on the site. They were able to acquire the adjacent lot from the city of Pittsburgh, because the house that they want to build accommodates 2 lots, more than just the one that they had. And the reason, and then the board may recall that several months ago, just to assist the Rose sisters and the builder, who's not necessarily familiar with city processes, the URA paid for a project manager, Alicia Volsi, to kind of bring this project to completion. So Alicia's been working with the Rose sisters and the builder and other contractors to try to get this project to where it can proceed. So the Rose sisters have insurance proceeds from the fire, from their homeowners insurance, but unfortunately the amount of insurance that they received is not sufficient to do everything you need to do to put a house back on the site. So that's the reason that we're here today. While it's not, the URA, is certainly not at fault for what happened, and we're, for the events that transpired, or for the twins' displacement, but we very much want to help them, rebuild the home on the site of their family home. So, so today I'm requesting a couple of things. One is a grant to assist with some of the site preparation costs, to put the home on the site, and then also a loan through the neighborhood housing program of $75,000. And those 2 sources, combined with the insurance proceeds and combined with some other sources, for example, the remaining amount of the facade grant, the LCG is coming up with a contribution, and then also what the URA has already committed to Studio Volsi. The financing being asked for today would be the final funding sources to complete the project. So with that, I don't know if there's any questions or if, this has been a long time coming for the Rose sisters, and we're excited for them to be able to start this project.
So I don't have a question, but I just want to say thank you. Their home catching on fire was no fault of their own. And we realize that, and we know that, and they've been out of the house for almost 36 months. So, when you think about everything that they've had to go through, all the lering curves in their late 70s and 80s that they had to learn due to something that was not their fault, this has been very trying time. So, Tom, again, I want to thank you for your expertise in helping them out. I appreciate you. I just want to say thank you. And I know they're happy.
And just to reiterate, for the board's benefit, the $75,000 loan is recoverable upon the potential future sale of the house.
Correct. And I do one thing I forgot to mention. I do want to thank a couple of staff members who've really gone above and beyond working with the Rose sisters, and that's Colette O'Leary and also Constance Mayer. They've been they've tried to help the Rose sisters all the way along through this process. So I do appreciate their efforts, as well as Studio Volsi, Alicia. She's done a great job as well.
Great. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Tom.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, moving into business solutions, we're going to talk about a proposal for a gift card loyalty program. And Tom Link.
Yep.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, Board, for considering this authorization. Just real quick, just personally, congratulations to Tom in his retirement. In these strange times, I find it odd that I won't see him again personally in the office. So I just want to, quickly here to say congratulations and thank him for all of his support of me personally, frankly, as a professional and person at the URA. On to the authorization here. Yes, this is an authorization that we're asking for the board to consider to provide $30,000 towards what amounts to a gift card loyalty program. As we think about how we can support small businesses, in this COVID crisis, I mean, clearly, as Jennifer talked about so well at the beginning, supporting access to capital programs and ensuring our small business community has access to tools to recover and grow again. Another great way to help small businesses is to actually buy their products and services. In this particular economy right now, I think for many of our small businesses, especially those in our main streets and neighborhood business districts, one of the ways you can help is by gift cards, is a way to certainly provide cash flow specifically to these individual businesses. So this authorization really is to help spark some of that. And essentially the way this would work, it would create a 25% match on gift cards that are purchased through the program for individual City of Pittsburgh businesses. So using simple math of through this program, one were to buy a $100 gift card, you would actually be getting a $125 gift card with $25 coming through this particular action of this program, which would go to the business to help boost the interest in buying the gift cards, but actually also the specific dollars going to the business in the form of these gift cards. Honeycomb Credit is our partner in this. We really look to them. They launched this actually in April, and we were watching it and saying, this is a pretty interesting thing and seems to be really effective in getting increasing interest in and getting this type of cash flow and gift card support to our small business community. So we've looked to them for this partnership. Folks here may also be aware, the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership did something similar downtown, and they had quite a bit of success with it. So we're looking at those models, and this is the way, a way to really spark that. Like many of the things we do, is $30,000 going to make or break the entirety of our small business community? I think it's helpful, but certainly more can be done, and we would look to others to help, over time as this is successful and to continue to move this program along. James with Honeycomb is on the Zoom. I know in case there's questions of him on some of the logistics and infrastructure of the program. I just also want to note that we've worked closely with, the mayor's office, and, Henry in particular has been supportive in helping think through this. Staff, Josette on the team has been taking a real leadership position, Corinne, and others. And, we have reached out, to a number of community partners. I know yesterday some of the city council has been, was briefed on this, received information on this program. We've received very positive feedback from that outreach, working with neighborhood allies as an example, also in terms of execution of the product, ensure that the program gets in front of the small business community and those businesses that we want, frankly need the help the most as part of our execution of this program. With that, I think I'll leave it to questions, and I know James is on the call if he has anything else to add, but would leave it there and open it up to questions and comments from the board and others. So thank you.
Thank you. I have a question. How were the 100 businesses selected?
So there's a couple of things. One is we're limiting it to 10 per business district. So, you couldn't have, as an example, 100 businesses from a single business district participate in the program. So that's one way we're sort of ensuring sort of geographic spread of the business. I think a lot of it will be in our own execution. So staff, working with neighborhood allies, working with, our community partners to ensure that we take the program and get it in front of our communities, across the city to ensure participation is how we're approaching it, Councilman.
Thank you. Have we defined business district in any particular way?
It's a great question. I'll copy Jessica's comment that one of the values of this is I can text my staff, and I know that Josette's listening, and I think she would have heard your question, and if she either wants to text me or chime in, that's a great question that perhaps Josette can answer quickly, and if not, we can certainly get that answer to you. I would assume that's by our main streets and our sort of defined neighborhood business districts.
Yeah, and the reason for my ask is you may have Warrington Avenue as a business district or business district in Squirrel Hill, but a lot of the minority businesses that may benefit this may not be in quote unquote business districts. They may only be one business on a block with only 3 buildings. So I just want to make sure Showcase Barbecue or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Who could benefit from this, that they're able to also be able to participate and not be discriminated against just because they're not in the quote unquote business district.
No, I think that's a good point. I mean, I guess the short answer is absolutely, right? Like just using your example, would certainly be able to participate in the program. I think the general idea is that, just being frank, there are some business districts where you could quickly have 100 businesses participating. Right. We want to limit it to some extent. So it's candidly to your comment, in these much smaller business districts have access, even, in individual businesses that maybe, where the business district, again, to your point, is 3, 4, 5 storefronts are not excluded from a program. So I would, the business districts more as a way to, I think, define and disperse the participation rather than exclude anybody from participating, if that makes sense.
Okay, great point.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Total cost here is $30,000.
Yeah, yeah, 30,000 is from the URA. I mean, we think certainly private people will buy gift cards, which becomes like a 400% match to that. Plus, we're hoping others, frankly, may follow us and expand upon this program.
Great. Okay. Any other questions? Any comments from the board? Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Good. A second from Jody, I think, and then Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
Okay, the next items on our agenda pertain to the Lower Hill. There are 2. One is for the preliminary approval of a developer and the conceptual development plan for block G1 in the Lower Hill. So preliminary takedown would be, if approved, the first of a series of votes for that parcel. And then secondarily, the resolution to extend the Block E closing deadlines, which have already passed. Actually, the original deadlines for those were May 10th.
Mr. Chair, I motion that we table these two items until our next board meeting.
Okay, there's a motion. There's the motion and a second.
Second.
Motion and seconded. I think we will entertain discussion on the motion. Do you want to, I mean, we heard clearly a lot of concern about this development when I was reviewing the public comment at the beginning of the meeting. Councilman, do you want to talk a little bit about your reasoning for the motions, for the hold?
Sure. So there was a lot of information that came in the last 2 days that I think really moves this in the right direction. However, I don't believe 2 days is enough time to be able to adequately inform the community of what could actually be very good progress that is being made on this. And I think we need an appropriate amount of time to both inform the community of what is moving forward, have a conversation. There is also some outstanding concerns that the community has that they want to address with the developer on this project. And I think they should be afforded that time and not necessarily be rushed at this moment.
So other board members want to chime in? Any other feelings on this?
No, I mean, I think I said it earlier and wholeheartedly agree with the councilman. You know, we don't want to rush this at all. Even, you know, if we're moving to a place that's more aligned with what the community and what the vision is for this space, we want to make sure that we take our time and do it right. So I completely and wholeheartedly agree with the councilman on this.
So I do want to, I hear that makes, you know, and I fully understand the sentiment and frankly the need for transparency. We did, you know, we had a presentation on this a month ago. We made certain things clear to the development team that we were hoping to achieve before today's vote. Many of those things, or some of those things at least, materialized, but not until late last night or even today. You know, this is, you know, I want to caution us a little bit, I suppose. This is a development that, you know, based on commitments that are in place and actions we've already taken and commitments that that we can and will, I expect, attach to this, conditions will attach to this approval and future approvals, you know, result in additional investment of at least $11 million into the Hill District. You know, money from this development will result in affordable housing being built in the Hill District. You know, and the upfront capitalization of at least $8 million in a Greater Hill redevelopment fund. And maybe at least as importantly at this moment in time, will put people from the Hill District to work, because we will have in this development what I think will be the strongest and furthest reaching and most enforceable first source hiring commitment that I have ever seen on a Pittsburgh development. We are now sitting in a moment when, unlike when we first started talking about even these parcels a few months ago, we've got 15% unemployment all across this country. This economic crisis is hitting low-income communities and communities of color worse than anyone else. And I think we've got to be clear that this is a project we want to advance, that we expect to advance, so that we can put people to work, so that we can capture those development dollars and put those additional development dollars to work in the Hill District. And that we view, at least I view, this as an integral project for our recovery from this economic collapse. You know, there's a lot in our economy that we need to change. And there's a lot in our economy that we don't want to rebuild as we rebuild the economy from the collapse of the last 2 months. We've got to rebuild an economy that focuses on job quality, not just job creation, and that puts people to work in a way that allow them to advance their communities and their own goals for themselves and their future, and creates career paths. this development really has the potential to do that. And if we continue to advance it with the kind of oversight and the kinds of commitments that we've demanded every step of the way, we can ensure that it does that. You know, and I would, I suppose, caution us to think about the economic moment that we're in, you know, before we delay this really at all, or certainly for very long, you know.
So I'll follow up.
Thank you.
Just so that I can be very clear on my intent. My intent is to actually see this development happen. I believe F&B can be and will be a great tenant, and more importantly, a great neighbor for the Hill District community as well as the city at large. I agree with all of what you said, Chairman. What I will say is, from the very beginning of this development, Lower Hill development, what we said from the very onset was whatever happens on the Lower Hill should be to the explicit benefit of the Middle and Upper Hill District as well, so that we're not drawing a red line in the sand that says, here's a wonderful development down here, and we're going to leave the rest of the community behind. And so even when you cite the example of what could be the strongest workforce and contract that we've seen on any development site, that may actually be the case, but we don't know it exactly yet because the contract isn't actually in place to ensure that that actually happens. And so what I'm saying is we need another week or two to pause, take a moment to make sure that all of what we think is in place to ensure that this development is equally beneficial to the Greater and Upper Hill District is actually in place. I believe you're absolutely right. We will have something that could be done tomorrow in place to be able to show how we're going to financially benefit the community. I do want to acknowledge that I know Kevin Ackland, on behalf of the Pins, has been busting his butt the last couple of days to get this in line, but we need to make sure that we're all on the same page. And unfortunately, because all the information just came in, some of it as of this morning, we were all working together to try to figure out how to make this work. We need a little more time to be able to vet it, to ensure that this is indeed in line with what the community's expectations are, and that this is indeed the deal that we expect it to be, so that it is to the explicit benefit of the larger community, especially those African Americans that have been starved in poverty ever since this government tore down this community.
Other input from other board members? No? So there's a motion on the table to hold for, I think you said a month?
Well, I just said our future board meeting,
Oh, okay.
whether that's in 2-3 weeks or at our normal time.
Would you accept an amendment to your motion to hold it for a special meeting within 2 weeks?
Yes.
I think that requires my amendment, I think, technically requires a second.
Second.
So there's a motion on the table to hold for up to 2 weeks, so that the commitments that have been made can be further examined, and to ensure that the community benefits that have been promised can actually be realized. Is there any further discussion of this motion? Seeing none, vote. I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Or any opposed? Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
So then that means that we will have to schedule within 2 weeks a special board meeting to revisit this. Okay.
Yes.
And let me just reiterate, it's, everything that the councilman said is 100% true. And I echo his commitment to making sure that, that we, pursue an adequate community process to review the commitments that have been made. And we also are going to get this development done. We've got to make sure that these jobs get created, that the right people get these jobs, and then we can move forward with a development that actually can put money back up into the Hill District and jobs into the Hill District.
I agree.
Okay. Next, we have agenda B. There are a number of things in agenda B. Hold on, let me just pull it up. Greg or Diamante, is there anything specific in agenda B that we want to highlight here?
Yes, I think that the major note that, and can you turn to, okay, so there are a few things here just to keep the board apprised. We are asking for your approval to apply and receive funds for COVID-19 response. Here's an update here that sort of outlines what we've accrued to date and what we'd like your approval and authorization for, and then an administrative waiver of pilot neighborhood initiative fund guidelines for those that were awarded funds to use at least 25% of those funds for their operational or administrative costs for hardships related to COVID-19. Just as our housing community and our business community have struggled a little bit, so has our nonprofit community, and we think that the flexibility in the guidelines will help address some of that.
Okay. And we actually have to vote to accept the money that we talked about earlier.
Yes. And Nathan, if there's anything else to highlight on agenda B, please walk the board through those items.
I think the rest of the items are fairly standard. The first three that you touched on, Diamante, are the only things that would be not standard on our agenda Bs.
Okay. Then a motion to approve in its entirety would be in order.
So move.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, the motion carries. And I think that concludes our agenda. There are no further announcements, and we will have to set as quickly as possible an additional special board meeting to reconvene on the lower ale matters. So that will obviously be, for the members of the public, that'll be announced and publicized through all the normal channels. Okay. Any other final parting thoughts before we conclude the meeting?
Sam, there are a few public comments that are in the Q&A. I think Celeste, I want to make sure that Celeste's question was answered regarding turnaround time for approval of HSP COVID-19 funds.
Hold on. Let me get back to the chat. Yeah, the turnaround time, I think, was, I asked Jessica, she had some, I don't know, she had an answer to that, didn't it? It wasn't, I don't know if it was
Yes. Hi,
scientific
can you
as
hear me?
maybe what Celeste was looking for, but it was answered. And I would just say that we did receive a number of actual specific information requests in the public comment, and those will be responded to directly by the URA.
Jessica's on. I think she can answer.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so, as I said before, it could be a week before somebody calls, somebody from one of the providers calls a person back. We're working to shorten that as much as possible, and we hope to shorten it once we get more providers on. And then after that point, it's generally another week that the provider, has several phone interviews with the person and make sure, or wants to do everything they can to help this person and get make sure that the assistance is geared towards, the way to help them the most. So it could be like a 2-week process. If you're not hearing that, please let me know. And also I've been watching the chat as well. And I did want to say that once again, we are doing a public update for everything COVID housing on next Thursday, the 21st at 9 a.m. It'll go on our website tomorrow. We are confirming with the city what the instructions are going to be to take public comment. But please go on our website so you can see the instructions tomorrow for how to take public comment for that meeting.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate that for members of the public who asked for specific information in the public comment that they submitted, that'll be reviewed by staff and answered. You know, a lot of what was asked for was, you know, is public information, and so we'll respond to those requests for information the way we would any kind of right to know inquiry that we receive. Okay. And then finally, there's a request that the Lower Hill meeting be in the evening. We don't even know when we're going to schedule that for yet, but it's certainly a good request that we will consider when we're scheduling the meeting that we've got to schedule now within the next 2 weeks. Okay. All right. Is there I think that concludes our business for today. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Bye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. And thanks for setting up, for the staff for setting up the additional stream on Facebook.
Absolutely.